Hello, and welcome to the Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron Houghton. Joining me today, we've got Paul.
Hey.
And Ivan.
Hi.
And Darren.
Yo.
Our feature review today is going to be Marvel Studios' latest release, Doctor Strange. The film stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Mads Mikkelsen, and Tilda Swinton. And that's got to be the funnest cast list to say all year. Later on, we'll do our RANT and RAVE segment, where we each discuss our latest discoveries. But first, let's see what's going on in the entertainment world with...
News on the mark!
The only big news this week for me is, have you guys heard about what's going on with this Inhumans show?
I only heard about it this morning. I read just a little bit on it, and it was just talking about whether Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was actually going to still do it or whatever, but that's that I had actually heard about it.
Dwayne Johnson?
Still do a movie? I don't know.
You mean Vin Diesel, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Same guy.
The other big, muscly guy. Yeah.
Right, this was supposed to be one of Marvel Studios' feature film.
Yeah.
It was announced in the Phase 3 slate coming out, I think, one of the last films after the Avengers sequel. And it got pulled, I think, about a year ago. It had something to do with that big split between Marvel Studios and Marvel Television. And then the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show started using the Inhumans a lot on that show. And I think they were just like, are we going to be able to fit what we have for the plans of the movie with the TV show?
And they've always liked to have the movies dictate what's on that show, not vice versa.
I would say that comes first.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, so I guess the film has been ditched, and next year, in cooperation with IMAX, Marvel's going ahead with the show, produced by ABC, to debut in September of 2017, and the first 2 episodes are going to be released in the theater on IMAX screens. That's kind of a new idea.
I haven't read. It sounded like they were filming the whole show in IMAX.
I don't know if we know anything about that, but it's the first 2 episodes for sure.
And do we know how many episodes it's going to be? I had possibly 8, but that's likely just speculation at this point.
Are you guys excited about this?
I'm curious. I've never really read a lot of the Inhuman stuff. I'm aware of them, and they've been involved in certain huge stories that I've read, like that Earth X, Universe X from way back when that Kevin Ross and co did,
Yeah.
but I've never really read a lot of the characters. I know the big characters, but past probably the main 2 or 3, I don't really know much about them.
Yeah, Marvel's royal family, they call them.
Yeah. Because of Black
immortal
Bolt and
beings.
Medusa.
Right.
Yeah.
Lockjaw,
yeah,
Karnak, Gorgon. These are all guys who made their first appearance in early issues of the Fantastic Four. The thing that scares me about the series is the budget. We're used to seeing the characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. don't have superpowers. How are they going to be able to work such a huge concept onto a television show, especially produced by ABC?
And hopefully they realize if it's going to be on IMAX, they can't cheap out and give it a TV budget that they're going to have to make really good.
Absolutely. They wouldn't even be announcing that unless they had something kind of special in store for you.
Yeah.
But then again, if they release this in IMAX and people turn out, they'll probably make enough money off those 2 movies in IMAX to pay for the whole series.
Maybe that's their plan. I don't know.
Because the Marvel tag on it, people will turn up even if they have no idea.
Sure, the curiosity factor with Marvel.
I as the non-comic book guy in the bunch, Inhumans, whatever.
Yeah, did you know?
I'll be interested. But
Did you know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before they made that movie?
no, I didn't, and I had no interest. Ever seen the trailer. The good reviews brought me in, and if just by virtue of the fact that it's on IMAX, if I know it's going to be on TV a month later,
Did you watch Guardians?
I did.
Did you like it?
I did.
Well, then there you go.
But they're not all
same
going to be
thing.
Guardians.
True.
It's still
No, true, but my point is, you did know who the Guardians were. They did a good job. It got you interested. You watched it. You liked it. Could be the same thing, right?
It could be, but my excitement level is 0 just based on the Marvel label. Couldn't care less.
What if a character that you like makes an appearance somewhere?
Then I'm there opening night. Front row.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest.
Front row,
Marvel,
that's the worst.
They are good at marketing things and cross-pollinating their properties. So there likely will be some familiarity to it to get the people like Darren that don't necessarily know who the Inhumans are, because you can't guarantee that people are watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because the audience seems to decrease for that show every season, so I don't think you could ever guarantee that people would know who they are.
Still watch that, but I couldn't get past 4 or 5 episodes, non-comic book fan.
I get past the season 1 for that show.
I haven't started season 4. I will watch it. It's been good. I like it as a supplement to the universe.
Yeah.
But I also would say that if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I would never say you have to watch it. Yeah. It's just, it kind of fleshes out the universe a little bit, and it's kind of neat having these people exist in that universe. It's a good show. It's not fantastic. I'd say for me, the height was season 2 was great. Season 3 had really good moments. Overall, it was okay. It was fine.
Yeah, what I saw was good, but not great. And to devote myself to a series, that's just good. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, they'd have to really step it up from what ABC has showed so far. We'd have to see something more of the Netflix quality.
Yeah,
and probably more than that.
Yeah.
They're strange characters. And
well, would this take place on Earth?
Exactly. The Inhumans have such a past in the comic books. They've been based in the Himalayas at the first, and then on the moon. They come from the city called Atilian. So they're kind of, in their own corner of the Marvel Universe for sure. And I think you could do a lot with that. To me, it almost seems like an HBO show. Treat it really seriously, almost like Game of Thrones with these kind of characters. I think the possibilities are there for this. With ABC doing it, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
it gets
just
me worried.
Because regular network TV, they just don't really take as many risks or...
they can't,
really
right?
Yeah.
Especially with the budget.
Well, ABC, weren't they going to do that half-hour comedy based in the Marvel Universe too?
Powerless, that's happening.
No, not Powerless. It's called Damage Inc. or something like that. I can't remember, but basically it's the guys that clean up.
But isn't that called Powerless now, though?
Maybe
that's Danny Pudi from Communities on that.
Oh, is it? I thought Powerless was DC.
Is that on network television?
Yeah, it's like a 22, like the half-an-hour sitcom, and it's the guys the insurance adjusters that deal with the aftermath of like superhero and villain fights.
Similar idea, anyways. But
I don't know. Maybe just change the name from Damage Inc. to Powerless.
Might have. Yeah.
Oh, all right. That's it for that. We can talk about that more next year when we get some more news on it. There's been some casting news for the upcoming Han Solo movie. Amelia Clarke, speaking of Game of Thrones, she's been cast in an unspecified role. And also, speaking of Community, you guys have heard that Donald Glover has been cast as Lando Calrissian?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that magic casting or what?
So great.
I mean, he would be top of my list for anyone.
Absolutely.
Gets me more excited about that movie.
Because I can't think of anybody else unless they go with like a complete no-name that they just...
And he's got such charisma, instant charisma. That, he's got the cachet to pull it off for sure.
Right, he's going to rock it.
Yeah.
Were you're excited about this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that's the working title? Just Han Solo movie?
Or
is it going to be called Han Solo?
Working title.
Han Solo, a Star Wars story, maybe?
Maybe it's the official title. I don't know. I'll have to come up with something better than that.
I like the title of, I haven't read the book yet. I've only read a few Star Wars books back in high school. But Timothy Zahn, who wrote the great Heir to the Empire trilogy, has a book called Scoundrels, which has Han, Chewie, and Lando on the cover. Which, I don't know.
Dirty,
I'm sure the stories
Scoundrels?
are nothing alike, but it's a good title for a Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
There's a new Skull Island trailer, the King Kong one. Have you guys seen that?
No, I didn't know there was a new trailer.
No, it looks great. The more I see, I think I've seen just about enough from it. I take a nice 6-month break. It's becoming one of my highly anticipated movies of the summer.
Yeah, I mentioned to you guys before after the Comic-Con trailers, that was the one that interested me the most. And I just think there's some great imagery in it. Who knows how it's going to actually be, but I like the idea.
Yeah, the new trailer fleshes out the plot a little bit, but it's got still enough of a tease.
There's a few too many spoilers already in the original trailer for me.
Yeah?
I'd probably stick away from this trailer.
The story.
I'd like to know as little as possible.
It's funny how 4 big movie guys like us really have put a dampener and limit on exposure to trailers these days. Just to tie it into Doctor Strange a bit, I avoided the Rogue One trailer as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, forced to watch the new one of Doctor Strange.
But if you're gonna see it, well, on the big screen, it's not the worst way to do it, right?
I am going to try to do something crazy, and it's probably not going to last very long, but I'm going to try to avoid seeing all promotional material for the Avengers Infinity War before it comes out. I don't want to see anything from that. Doctor Strange and some of the other movies, it's okay because you kind of know what you're getting. I know what I was getting in for with Doctor Strange. I know his origin story. And
you want to kind of see the tone of the movie. Did they get it right?
Right.
What are they going to do with
But for this Avengers movie, I want to go in so clean. I'm going to try. That's it for news this week. Shall we move into our feature review?
You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? But what if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
This doesn't make any sense.
Not everything has to, Doctor Strange. Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality.
The Avengers protect the world from physical dangers. We safeguard it against more mystical threats.
Come with me.
You'll die protecting this world, Mr. Doctor. Mr. Doctor. It's strange. Maybe. Who am I to judge?
That's the teaser trailer for Doctor Strange, 14th film from the ever-expanding MCU. I thought we should begin, maybe for new listeners, just to let everybody know where we stand on these movies so far, and the Marvel Universe in general. I'm a total fanboy from long ago. I am totally unbiased for these movies. I unabashedly love them, and simple as that. What about you, Paul?
Absolutely. I love the Marvel movies. Maybe not every single one of them. Obviously, as with every genre, going to be good, there's going to be bad, but I'd say with Marvel, there's been far more hits than misses. Yeah, I love them.
And Ivan?
Yeah, same here. I'm enjoying them, and I agree with Paul. There's definitely hits and misses, and I think I've made my feelings known on some of their misses that I wasn't a huge fan of. But still, I gotta say, even there's some of their movies that I haven't really been all that behind. I thought that they were overrated. They were still better than, Suicide Squad. And I'm even enjoying the Marvel shows. I haven't been watching S.H.I.E.L.D., but the Netflix stuff has been really good.
And to clarify, not one of us is purely DC or Marvel. We love all comic book properties.
Thing.
And
yeah,
absolutely. It's ridiculous to
I've never met a comic book person in my life who's actually just been that one-sided about it. So
no,
I don't know if they really exist.
I think they save that for the comment sections.
And Darren?
Yeah, as the non-comic book guy of the quartet, I too think Marvel's really doing something right. And I don't have anything invested either way, Marvel or DC. 2 or 3 misfires from Marvel, and the rest have been gems. It's a great series, and I always look forward to what's coming up next on their slate.
For sure. You guys don't know, this is officially the biggest franchise in the history of motion pictures, right?
Yeah.
It's bigger than Bond, it's bigger than Star Wars, it's bigger than Harry Potter. And with them releasing 3 films a year from now on, starting next year, I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to, come
surpass
close to
them. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Doctor Strange. Okay, our first thoughts. We'll do some spoiler-free stuff for a while.
I was just going to say, overall, I really enjoyed it. A few minor issues, but I would say good movie. Definitely a hit, in my opinion. They got the character right for what he was. There's not really a whole lot that you can rag on that movie for.
I really liked it. I've never really been a huge Doctor Strange fan. As far as I've always been intrigued by the character, but I've never really read any comic specifically geared to him. He's always been involved in stories here or there, and that's kind of garnered my interest in him. I knew the basics of the character, but not any of, inside details that somebody like yourself, Ron, you would know more than I would. But even then, not knowing a ton about the character, just my inner comic fanboy, you get certain moments in the movie where just you get that big grin on your face of just that, the first time he's wearing the cape, or you get those iconic moments, and it doesn't matter how much you know about the character, you're just like,
it's the Cape of Fantomas, right?
Yes. But I went to the movie with my wife, and she's in the same book as us, where she really enjoys, for the most part, what Marvel does, and she's into cosplay and producing costumes, and she was even noting how great the detail work on the costumes was, and the overall look of it, and just the little details in there that just made everything pop. And
it's funny what we watch when we see a movie. Hey? Melanie will watch for the costumes. I'm listening for the score.
Yeah, it's your interest, and do they do that right? Do they do that justice? And I'd say, for me, maybe not all the comedy worked. Maybe some of it seemed a little forced, but that would honestly be my only critique of the movie, is that...
Yeah, I'd say there's a touch, maybe too much comedy in it, and some of it did take you out of the moment a little bit.
Yeah.
Some of it was pretty funny, and so...
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it was a good movie, I agree. Visual feast, obviously. If you've seen one trailer or one commercial...
I'm assuming we all saw it in 3D.
No, I saw it standard.
Yeah,
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
2D for you 2D, as well?
Yeah.
Did anybody see it in IMAX?
No.
I would have only seen it in IMAX if I was going to see this 3D. I know from some who did, just saw the regular Disney 3D or whatever you call it, they said it was kind of crap.
I saw it in 3D, and I thought it was great. I would only want to see that movie in 3D in the theater.
My wife doesn't handle 3D very well. Otherwise, I likely would have gone to see it 3D or at least minimum IMAX, because I think, a movie that really lends itself to the visual feast for the eyes, as Darren put it. You want to experience that to the fullest, and I think, honestly, even in 2D, you got a really good sense of what was going on. I think it drew you in regardless. Personally,
I definitely thought there was some parts, especially the chase scene. There was so much going on and happening that, I'm not a type of person that when I watch a movie 3D that it bothers me. But there was parts of that, it was just kind of everything was kind of flying by. Right. It was just kind of...
I think that's kind of the hallucinatory effect they wanted for a lot of it, too. I mean, there's no way you can keep track of everything going on screen in a lot of these moments.
No. I just thought a few times it was just kind of disorienting. But
and just the general use of magic, did you just like the way the buildings twisted and shaped and all of that stuff? It was kind of, I thought it was a fresh take on it.
As a non-comic book guy, once again, that's the idea of characters enmeshed in magic and sorcery in a superhero universe. It's just a cool idea, and what he was able to do. You saw that very first trailer. I'm sure everyone thought, I've seen Inception already. I don't need to see this.
Yeah.
But man, does it take it 20 steps beyond Inception. Outstanding. I could see how it could be disorienting for people with motion sickness or something. Could
for
easily.
Sure.
And I loved even the little details, not only the mind-bending moments like you're talking about where it's just turning reality on its ear, which it did a really good job of that, but I even loved the effect where they were doing those portals to go from one place to the other, and it just the look of the hole, and almost looked like literally they were cutting a hole in reality, because you had the sparks and everything, like as if you were cutting a hole through a metal door or something. It was a really neat effect, and it really brought it all together. You didn't have to wonder what was happening. It was pretty clear. I thought the visual dictionary of the movie I thought was great, and I thought they did that really well, considering this is an element that's new to a lot of people watching the movie, and you didn't need to have a character sitting there explaining, this is what's happening. I think it was pretty immediate. Once you saw what was going on, you understood what was happening.
Yeah, that was one of the benefits, actually. There wasn't excessive exposition in that way. They let the visuals tell the story through most of it, and it was very understandable for the audience. You didn't need the exposition.
And what did we think of Benedict Cumberbatch?
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic casting choice. Like all of Marvel's movies, I think their casting is superb right across the board, and it works in this movie too. I think everybody's great.
Wait to see how he relates to further actors. Like him and Robert Downey Jr. are going to have some great banter in upcoming movies. Me and my buddy Chris were talking about some of that, and he's going to fit right in with the Avenger crowd.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who were saying, did you notice the similarity between the origin stories between Iron Man and Doctor Strange? And
it's a pretty standard origin story.
Yeah, right.
It's
the rich man's fall from grace somewhat.
Yeah, you can almost plug one comic book origin story into another. And
the arrogance and all that kind of stuff. It's slightly different because Doctor Strange, his origin, he's an arrogant surgeon, but he wants to help people, whereas Tony Stark was like an alcoholic that was just building weapons, and then he didn't really care what happened until he was over there and got attacked, right?
I think the turn for Tony Stark, it's been forever since I've seen the first Iron Man, but I think the turn happened a little bit quicker in the first Iron Man. That's actually one thing that I liked in Doctor Strange, is that he remained that little bit really arrogant for that first little bit of the movie. Maybe a little bit longer than most would let you, to the point where he was almost really unlikable in certain scenes.
Oh, absolutely. There's that scene right at the beginning with him and Rachel McAdams when she kind of calls him on their relationship, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's just like, we're not dating, or and very cold. I was just like, this guy's kind of a prick
to somebody who is devoting their life to helping you, and exactly, and those were exactly the words I was thinking of, just arrogant prick.
Yeah, he didn't even totally want to just do it to help people. A lot of it was not as self-serving as Tony Stark. But he wanted to build his own status as the surgeon and have.
And then when he was looking for help, but some of those other doctors were kind of doing the same thing to him. It's like, sorry, if I take on your case and I fail, that's a damage to my reputation. And that's kind of like, it's kind of like
the flip side of it.
Yeah. When he was training as a magician, if I may use that term, it seemed like he wanted... He felt he earned...
Sorcerer Supreme.
Yes. Sorcerer Supreme.
Sounds like something you'd get at Taco Bell.
It was delicious. He felt like he should, it seemed like he thought, well, I should be earning higher levels of sorcery faster.
Right.
Training at the black belt level instead of this green belt level that I'm at.
Like how he went for those forbidden books, like right off the bat. He's just
like he saw those, he knew that was the top level book. And he was enticed. He wanted to get at them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, there's a lot of talk that maybe when Robert Downey Jr. steps down, like he must eventually as Iron Man, that Benedict Cumberbatch will be taking his place in the Marvel Universe.
Definitely he could fill those shoes as that kind of personality.
Yeah, I think he'd be great. I'm sure he signed up for the Avengers films. And
that's obviously why they're introducing all these characters.
Yeah.
For the Ultimate Replacements and so on.
Yep, for sure.
Do we want to talk about the rest of the casting? I, for one, do we want to get into this whole whitewashing controversy with the Ancient One?
I actually we can talk about it.
I'll throw in my 2 cents too. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
And well, it's funny. I went to see Margaret Cho on the weekend, and she actually talked about it a little bit. She had a funny line. And she said that there's all the hoopla about the whitewashing in here, and that Tilda Swinton plays an ancient Tibetan man. Of course, she's a comedian. She's going to spin that. I understand why they did it, but she basically, her funny story was talking about how Tilda Swinton got her email address, and she doesn't know how. And Tilda Swinton basically asked her to calm down the Asian population for her. And she said, yeah, I'll get on my yellow phone and calm down my
That's hilarious.
Wow. Yeah, anybody else have thoughts on this?
Well, as you guys know, I like to quote Roger Ebert when I can. And as he said once, the whole point of acting is playing someone you're not. And so why not? If you're a man playing a woman, an Asian playing a white man playing an Asian, so on and so on. Yeah, that's the whole point of drama. You're playing someone you're not. At the same time, black people and Asian people and Aboriginal people and on aren't taking roles from white people. White people are taking roles from everyone else by doing this, so I can 100% see where they're coming from.
And I understand why they did it, because they wanted the movie to be released in China.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want to...
Right, the Ancient One is a Tibetan character in the comic books, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's already sparking controversy.
Offend.
Yeah,
right.
They didn't
90% of the Earth.
So we'll make her Irish.
Yeah. And I thought she did an amazing job.
It's my favorite performance in the movie.
Yeah,
I think she's
did a
brilliant.
Really good job, but it's...
I did like that they nodded to the fact that she's not the only one. She's one in a line of. So at some point it obviously was a Tibetan man. She's
I'll mention a few things later when we talk about spoilers, but to me that was one of many cheats in the movie.
Yeah.
Fair.
They're just like a little sentence here to try and kind of explain some things, like calm people down, like stop nitpicking. I think for a lot of comic book fans especially, it's just one of those, us comic book fans, when we see a character in the comic books, we want to see that character on the screen.
Right.
So when you take and you make that change, it's kind of...
But we also don't want to see comic book characters that were stereotypes in the 60s perpetuated.
True, but they could have had an Asian man on there and more up to date, kind of not doing the whole Mr. Miyagi type mentor, right?
Mm-hmm. The only time I truly have a problem with them. Sorry to talk over you.
No worries.
The only time I truly have a problem with them changing the race or gender of a character is if it's something that's integral to the core of that character. Like if it's something that this character has to be Irish and then they just change it to some other background for the sake of pleasing some part of your audience. To me, that doesn't make any sense to me, and then why are you even using this character? If you're going to change so much about this character, clearly that isn't the character you want to use. Just either create a character or find a different one. And you can get away with that with certain characters that the general population doesn't know. Like you could do that with the Ancient One because Doctor Strange isn't a known commodity to 90% of the people that are going to go see it.
Yeah, and here's the case where it's like an ancient Tibetan monastery, and the character is still a white woman, and it works for almost everyone in the audience. Mm-hmm. So clearly it's...
Right, as a non-comic book reader, you didn't watch the movie and say, why is this white woman running this place?
No, exactly.
And of course Marvel's saying that, at least with the portrayal of Wong, played by Benedict Wong, that in the comic books he's much more of the typical Oriental manservant. Well, in this movie, he's much more, right, he's running the library, he's, absolutely, he's a fleshed-out character, and I thought he was great. So, yeah, I think Marvel dodged the bullet quite gracefully. And
to me, the conspiracy theorist in me a little bit wonders if they knew changing the heritage of the Ancient One's character for the movie, they decided they'd do a little damage control and go, well, let's make it a woman and then we'll please another aspect.
I absolutely think that was taken into consideration. Director Scott Derrickson also said if he had a first choice of anyone to play the Ancient One of any race, he said he would have picked Tilda Swinton anyway. So
and absolutely, and she proves her casting is worth it by the performance you see, which I agree. I think she was my favorite performance in the movie, hands down.
And she probably is the Ancient One. I'm pretty sure Tilda Swinton was born 1,000 years ago on some remote island somewhere, so she's perfect casting.
They call that Ireland.
Wherever her alien pod
She's
landed.
more like from the Galapagos.
Right.
She does the whole androgynous thing. I mean, she's done this so many times. Maybe she does have a dick under there. You don't know.
Thank you, Ivan. Maybe we should talk about something that Marvel's been criticized of in other films, which is its lack of a great villain. I'm afraid I don't think this movie does much to change that.
No, are we into spoiler territory here, or
if you can dance around it?
They do give a couple of lines as to why he's doing this. When they describe him, why he's so angry, why he came to the temple to learn, and then why he's so angry.
I think basically, especially with the first installment of a Marvel movie, I almost think of the villain as just kind of a plot device that the main character has to overcome, not kind of distract you too much from the development of the main character in front of you, because you don't really know that character at this point, so I guess to some degree you don't want to confuse the audience too much by throwing too much at them. Mm-hmm. Could the villain have been better? Absolutely. I thought the villain was good enough to serve the purpose that it needed to.
Yeah, the villain in the origin story almost works just as a plot device to get the hero on the path that they're supposed to be on. And it's, two-dimensional villain, but
there's a lot of other things going on in the film. You know, besides him,
But you could have still made a stronger villain and still kept the movie, the main focus on the main character with a stronger villain.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, everybody always talks about how great Loki was, but I mean, he was in the very first Thor movie and he was there the entire time.
Oh, exactly. And Thor is a superior movie to Doctor Strange, and one of the reasons is
because of Loki.
Yeah, Loki. It had a great villain.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Before we move into spoiler territory, why don't we say where we do rank this film among the Marvel films? You didn't like it as much as Thor?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Thor is one of my probably 5 favorite.
Right. Like, as I said, we're on the 14th one, right? So even middle ground, it's about your 7th place,
I'd
right?
say it's upper middle ground. Definitely not quite at the top tier, but getting there. I'd say 75 to 80% range.
Yeah, I'd mark it right in the middle.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I really liked it. I didn't love it, but I just chalked it up to the fact that it wasn't a character that I was that familiar with or attached to. But then again, going back to Ivan's argument earlier, didn't really know a lot about the Guardians of the Galaxy going into it, and yet came out of that movie loving it. Obviously, that's apples and oranges, different characters, different feel. But definitely, I thought it was one of their best efforts. Hard to say, like you said, there's 14 movies. It wouldn't crack the top 5 for me because I didn't have the nerdgasm that I did with Civil War.
And would the lower half be most of the earlier films, the origin type stories that are like this one?
No, for me, much like Ivan and I have discussed in the past, like I feel Ant-Man, Iron Man 3, so it kind of runs the gamut. Like I just don't hesitate to say they're not consistent. The genres are just so all over the place that sometimes things aren't going to work. I know people that absolutely loved Ant-Man and think it's one of the best Marvel movies. For me, it was good. I didn't think it was great, and I would put something like that a little more towards the bottom of the stack. I still own it. I theoretically would watch it again one day. We'll see.
I think for me, because, I don't know, I think me and you are probably the most familiar with this character. Just some of the things I was watching this movie, I kind of knew who was who and what they might become later. There was so much in this movie where they just shortchanged a lot of things. But once again, it could be one of those when they do better in the sequel. Some of these other movies... Sorry?
Anything in particular?
Well, Rachel McAdams' character...
She's somewhat superfluous.
Yeah, but you know who she is? In comic book-wise?
No, not really.
Oh, well, then there you go. I do. She's Claire No, not Claire.
No, that's Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
But she's one of them. There's 3 night nurses. And Rachel McAdams' character is another character that becomes a night nurse with Claire Temple. So it's one of those, the fact that they just...
That sounds like an action-packed comic.
Nurses were big in the 70s.
The night nurse.
Oh, the night nurse.
The night nurses.
The night nurses are nurses specifically geared towards helping out superheroes when they get injured.
They apply a mandate. Night nurses.
For me, I thought the whole training sequence from where he begins to how quickly he's, really mastering magic happens very quickly to me on screen.
A lot of cheats there. That's what I'm talking about.
I thought so. I thought that.
But he had some
fun
fun
a few more
scenes,
minutes there, for sure.
Yeah.
I think they did some interesting things there, but I don't know if you guys felt this, but yeah, I would say throughout the whole movie, the context of time was kind of lost a little bit. Like, I wasn't sure.
When he shows up back at the hospital, how long did you think he had been gone for?
I
assumed years.
Deduction. Yeah, I would have assumed like at least 1 to 2 years, but they don't really say that.
She says you've been gone for months.
Did she actually say months?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't notice that,
but even like just throughout, like even to try to pinpoint where within the whole Marvel Cinematic timeline this was taking place, I was trying to...
Do you get the one shot of Avengers Tower at the beginning?
Yeah. Apparently that whole early part of the movie takes place, quite a long time ago within the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I was wondering because,
but he still had the Avengers Tower in it, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
in Winter Soldier, they mentioned Stephen Strange as one of the characters that they are
targeting.
The point is that character at that Winter Soldier.
They were talking about the algorithm finds people that have a bright future, and Stephen Strange was still a brilliant surgeon.
Exactly. Like, is he maybe such a worry as a surgeon?
That's a hell of an algorithm.
Or has he already
figure that
out?
But maybe they were concerned about him being a surgeon that he might
save some people.
Yeah, do some
become a night nurse.
God,
a medical breakthrough or something versus a magician, right?
Yeah,
or sorcerer supreme.
Yeah, I don't think they ever fully explain it. If they did, I might have missed it.
And that
the training feels like what he achieved should have been years.
Right.
But it felt like what they showed. He was there for about 2 weeks.
Because he's introduced with these other disciples that are training, and within seconds, it seems like he's advanced past them.
Exactly.
And even going back to the whole element of time and how elusive it seemed throughout the whole movie, and I'm not going to spoil the final scene, but it's one of those things where it would have been nice to have some kind of context in there as far as and some of those things, the sad thing is some of those things could be rectified with just a simple line delivery, and maybe that's a cheat too, but at least it would give it some context and explanation.
The final scene was better than line deliveries that kind of, if we're talking about the same scene, the climactic scene, I suppose, then there were enough line deliveries there that they get away with it.
True.
But not quite as effective as Bill Murray, if I can say that.
Do you think that this movie falls into being too much of the cookie cutter variety? Does it break enough new ground?
I think it did.
The plot was generic, like the basics of it. The origin. But all the other stuff they did in between, the visuals and everything else was
a lot of unique stuff here.
Yeah,
that we haven't seen before in any kind of movie, let alone a superhero movie.
Yeah, I agree. So
I think they really run into that fine line between people always saying, I want something new out of my comic book movies. Yeah, they still want to see a Marvel movie, right?
Yeah.
They still want to come in knowing kind of what to expect. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of walk that line in the next few years.
They know their audience, and it's obviously far beyond just the comic book fans. So it's whatever it is, it's paid off again for them.
In case you don't know, as a non-comic book person, but did you see where they might be going with the character of Baron Mordo? Because for comic book fans who love Doctor Strange, they know that Baron Mordo is his arch nemesis in the comic books.
Okay, so I didn't know that much. Is Baron Mordo... And I probably never knew exactly what they were saying when they mentioned his name in the movie. Bear what?
I kept thinking Mordor.
I didn't know where he was a baron of. I didn't know he was a baron at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Now, is that even? Because I don't remember the names of the characters. Is that...
Baron Mordo is his name.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
It was Chiwetel? Okay.
Right.
So there was
Mads Mikkelsen
from the other dimension.
Right.
Which
that is Dorem.
Yeah, as far as I know, their names all sound the same.
Yeah.
So, who are they talking about now? I don't know. But.
Right. Mordo in the comic books always felt he should be Sorcerer Supreme, not Doctor Strange, and that Doctor Strange kind of usurped him and took the mantle of that.
You could tell from early in the movie that the character was being built as a foil, a nemesis.
Right. And that one of the reasons I think Mads Mikkelsen's character is maybe underdeveloped is because for the comic book fans, they do really know your attention is really on Baron Mordo anyways, because we know where he's going, that, you know, it's really him and Doctor Strange that matter. So the side villain, who I've never seen a comic book with that Mads Mikkelsen villain in it before. I can kind of see why they kind of threw him to the side a bit, because I know the good stuff's coming in the next movie.
But do you need a actor the level of a Mads Mikkelsen to play that character, right? It's kind of like we've said in like Star Trek Beyond, where you've got Idris Elba under all that prosthetic and makeup, and almost like a not necessarily throwaway character, but certainly, like we've all said, underutilized his Marvel villain. Do you need
I think he's given more to do than in that movie.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
But still, yeah, he could be more utilized, and who knows, maybe we'll see him in another movie. Right.
It's true.
And yeah, like he wasn't under a pile of makeup, and if you're watching just an average actor, it wouldn't be as interesting as watching Mads Mikkelsen. He's just got a great face. To...
Do we want to talk about Dormammu and how he looked on screen?
Did anybody else think of Rise of the Silver Surfer?
A little bit.
Galactus with the Galactus Cloud? No, it's at least it looked like Dormammu from the comics.
I thought it looked great, and I really liked the little Easter egg that was actually voiced and imaged after Benedict Cumberbatch too. I thought that was a neat little twist.
Oh, was it? I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, for me it was just the whole you're building up to the very end of this like big bad, and then it's just like a giant CGI head.
As opposed, I don't know if he would have looked any better if he had like a humanoid shape, but
yeah, what was it?
I think they're trying to
shape. It was just like a body with like a head that's on fire. It's almost like
but I think they're trying to represent, you know, it's a more all-powerful type creature, right?
Yeah,
it's,
and you know
lessens his degree if he's just standing.
That just kind of popped into my head. It's not like I was like, oh, this blows. I hated it. It was just I got that kind of image in my head.
And it probably looked great on 3D IMAX too. It was giant.
And what did we think of? It's not quite an anticlimactic finish, but what did we think of Doctor Strange's? Final solution is to solve his problem. I thought it was pretty ingenious for a comic.
It was clever. It was neat. Yeah, I liked how they handled it, because there wasn't this big epic battle. He actually, I mean, especially at the level of powers that he has at that point, he would have no business going toe to toe with a being of that power. So the fact that he had to be, you know, very cunning and use his wit, I thought was great.
But it's also quite the sacrifice that he's making, too.
Yeah,
it shows how far the characters come by the end of the movie.
But that's what I wanted to see, which I don't know if they really showcase that, because every time he comes back, it's almost like he's got a smirk on his face, or he's being smart aleck.
Right.
Live, die, repeat.
Yeah, whereas one that was wanted to kind of show that it's taking a toll on him, versus every time he comes back, he just seems like he's like happy-go-lucky. It's like I just got obliterated into a million pieces, and I got a big
but every
smile on
time
my
he's
face.
Regenerated,
right? It's the same thing happening, right? So
he's
he would have the same,
again,
right?
I know, but it's
like the ultimate Groundhog Day.
It is. It's amongst the cheats in the movie. That
True,
you
but
watch Groundhog Day, you get the impression he's done it thousands of times. And for watching this scene,
he seems like it's like 5 minutes.
There's a montage, and he's okay. I guess we got the impression the same thing. It could go on for centuries,
right?
Yeah.
But it seems like only 5 minutes.
I don't know how they could have conveyed it any better.
But that it did take a toll. That he's tried to kill himself. Also, like you mentioned, live, die, repeat.
Yeah.
The Tom Cruise movie. Once again, you're showing the toll it's taken on him. Whereas in this movie, I mean, we don't know how much time has passed, and I thought it would have been better if they showed that it takes a toll on him.
Agree.
But he's kind of going, I don't care how much toll it's taking on me. I'm still gonna do this, and I'm gonna beat you.
Right. It shows how much of a sacrifice. It is.
Right, but I don't think if it even started taking even a minor toll on him, though, he's immortal, right? He could wait 10,000 years to do that. I think the whole point had to be that this is kind of a no-win situation for him, right? That every time he comes back, he's going to be...
But the same thing could have kept happening, though, even though he's doing this to him. Stephen Strange is like, I'm not giving up. It doesn't matter. You can keep...
But you see what I mean? If you wear him down a little, when you're immortal, right? A little bit can last, you know? You can wear him down like...
It feels like you've got some ground.
Right.
Yeah. I just, going back to my whole thing earlier about elusive time, I think, and I may have mentioned it before, just having a little line in there or something to allude to the fact that, this has been going on.
I can go another 100 years if you want.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Or, just give it a little bit of context, because it does feel like, yeah, okay, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, was it just like 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something, just like those ones, and then Dormammu just gives up, which then also makes him look like weaker. It's like, really? You just give up just like that when you're supposed to be this all-powerful being?
But all in all, that's one thing for me that's just a little nitpicky. I thought it was a clever solution that was kind of the antithesis of where I thought it could go, because typically the superhero movie is going to be the big epic battle, and
I thought it was an interesting way to show the depth of character, right? How much he's changed from the beginning of the movie. Like, and he's not going to beat him with his, with his brawn, but he can beat him with his mind and doing these tricks. And
that's what makes it work. It is a witty, clever solution.
Right. And you'd like to think that the guy at the beginning of the movie wouldn't have done that, wouldn't have made that sacrifice, right?
Well, no, we're not saying that it was a bad thing. We were just saying that we would have kind of like to show more, like you were saying, the sacrifice. But still, I mean, like you said, I agreed. Just the way he went about it was smart and clever. And I was actually happy they did it that way versus some big CGI.
Yeah, me too. That's what. Yeah,
thing.
I like that.
No, I'm just saying, I just want a little more just to show him growing as somebody that's like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep sacrificing until I beat you here.
Maybe on a deleted scene?
Maybe.
Supposedly, his first interaction with the Ancient One, when she kind of touches him and takes him on his first little journey, his kind of... Right. Supposedly, that was a 7-minute long sequence.
Oh, wow.
Finished. And they cut it in half for the film, and it's going to be a 7-minute release on the DVD.
Well, somebody's dropping acid and watching that.
There's some moments in that when, I don't know if probably particular moments hit everybody in a certain way, but when he's flying into his eyeball and he's kind of hanging on to his iris, and it's just stuff you never thought you'd never saw in a movie, never thought you'd see in a movie.
They did a really good job of bringing that world into that movie, right? Because with this character, you were expecting crazy stuff like that.
That first sequence delivers, though.
Yeah.
In a big way.
I agree. Like, it was amazing.
And if that sequence doesn't work as well as it does, you could lose your audience right there. You're watching it going, what am I watching? This is garbage. If they don't pull that off, you could lose your audience.
Yeah, for sure. And it sold, that sequence sells not just the character of Stephen Strange, but it sells the audience on the potential of what can happen here.
And that's what I loved. I loved the visual language was just, for me, it was on point. It was perfect. It worked. The designs, the trippiness, just the little details. It was, I would say, even though it might not rank as a whole in my top tier Marvel movies, visually, if not the best among the best, just strictly visual.
I can't imagine seeing better visual effects in a film this year. It's got the Oscar all wrapped up, you would think. I don't think a Marvel movie has ever won an Oscar yet.
Well,
it could be interesting.
Yeah, comic book movies don't tend to really get considered.
I mean, even on a visual effects level. Yeah.
Technical categories, they should. And
I mean, we've discussed so many times that Heath Ledger, as awesome as he was, would he have won or even been nominated for a comic? Do you think so?
I do think he would have been nominated for sure. I can't say if he would have won. I still think he deserved to win.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
I don't think it was a sympathy vote in any way.
No, it just kind of brought that immediacy to it and respect that maybe wasn't pre-existing. But that's a discussion for a different time.
What do we think about...
we can do an entire podcast just on that kind of stuff.
The Eye of Agamotto. Do you know what that is? That's the little...
I now know it's...
Nice hunk of jewelry he was wearing?
Yeah, Infinity Stone.
Right. It's not an Infinity Stone in the comics, of course, right?
Yeah.
But they have to keep finding ways to
keep
ramming one of these into one of the movies. So I thought that was kind of neat. I didn't see that coming, and I probably should have.
I'm surprised you didn't. Because,
it's such a particular of artifact to Doctor Strange. It's like saying his cloak has it or something. It's so essential to his character that you kind of think, what's he going to do without it? But then you think, what's Vision going to do? And Thanos rips that thing out of his head, too.
I like how the cloak had a
personality.
Magic carpet-esque personality.
Very much. A little bit of Aladdin going on.
It was fun to watch, but it was, at times, too much.
But it worked. Like,
it did.
I agree. Like, I like the fact that it had a personality of its own. And
if only it had tassels that could bundle up into fists. That would have been way too far.
Okay, do we want to talk about the post post-credit sequence? The first one, I guess? Maybe the second one we could start with. Everybody stuck around for both? Right. Which, for me, is probably one of the most substantial post-credit sequences Marvel's ever done. I mean, it's hardly a throwaway shot or anything. It's really setting up the villain for the sequel.
And to me, it was astounding how, especially, and this isn't really talking directly about the scene, but the audience. This is the 14th movie in Marvel. You know, to state of the end credits. It amazed me how many people left after the mid-credit sequence. Seriously, there were 3 people in theater when the final scene played. My wife, myself, and some guy in the corner. And
we had more than that.
How do you not know
for us
that
half
the
the
scene is
people
coming?
Maybe it's to the point I was saying earlier that a lot of the post-credit sequences really aren't. They don't matter to the movie. Right. You know, like in Thor 2, remember it's one of the alien dogs running around tipping over a dumpster or something. And you're like, well, that's not necessary or something. Yeah. But in this one, it's essential.
Yeah.
You know, it's essential to find out where the story's going for the sequel. I was really surprised at how much meat they put on that last one.
Have they always done 2? Or was it kind of either at the end or in the middle?
I think not every movie has 2
so maybe some people just thought, okay, we saw the mid-credits one, it's not going to be one at the end.
I think all the Phase 2 movies did it.
Didn't Age of Ultron not have an end credit sequence, and that kind of broke the formula? There was a recent movie that I recall.
It didn't have a final post-credit sequence, right? It had the mid one.
Yes.
Yeah, they just had the whole Tony on the couch talking to Banner while he kind of like dozed off, right?
No, that's at the end of Iron Man 3, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, the mid sequence one in Age of Ultron is Thanos taking the gauntlet, saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yeah.
Next year is Guardians, Spider-Man, and Thor. And speaking of Thor Ragnarok, that's the mid-sequence tied into that one, which was also directed by the director of Ragnarok, Taiki Waititi. I'm probably saying that name wrong.
Sounds closer than I would get.
I thought it was great. Just seeing Doctor Strange and Thor hanging out is just awesome.
I need to see that scene again because I didn't notice the gloves that Doctor Strange had on. I was just not noticing, and everybody online is raving about how great it looked, and for whatever reason,
I think everybody was too focused on the whole beer mug.
Yeah. Who wants that's
self-filling beer mug? Yes,
that's my idea of magic.
He goes from tea to beer, and then the Thor chugs it just like right away, and right back. And Thor's like,
So I think if anybody had any ideas about how Thor and Hulk might be getting into space in the next movie, I think it's going to be Doctor Strange is going to be providing the transportation.
Yeah,
and it leads you to believe he could be a lot more involved in that story too.
I know that he's in Thor 3 for sure. I would assume it probably right at the beginning, just to kind of moving them around.
Are supposed to Thor and Hulk, are they like traveling together, or is it more that they ran into each other and something?
The director has called it a buddy comedy reminiscent of the 80s.
See, yeah, but I heard somewhere that it could have been like Thor ends up on the planet and he finds the Hulk already in battle, like already on that planet.
That could be.
Who knows?
Do that.
We'll just have to wait and see until we watch it. How they all.
I think out of the 3 Marvel movies next year, it's the one I'm looking forward to the most, which is kind of strange. But
I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, Captain Marvel would be interesting, but once again, with Captain Marvel's history in the comic, it's pretty crazy too.
The Carol Danvers one.
Yeah, but I mean, they're definitely not going back into what happened with her. That's for damn sure.
I don't know exactly what you're getting at.
Well, do you know how Rogue got her powers?
Okay, yeah, okay,
so
right.
That's not, and then there's all that other stuff
with the baby and all of that. Yeah, they're not going to get into. That's one of the most controversial comic book storylines of all time. They're going to shy away from that.
She's not going to be Miss Marvel. She's going to be Captain Marvel.
Exactly.
So it looks like they're just going to start off from that point. So they're going to skip that.
They'll probably do the similar Green Lantern type beginning where she's the test pilot and counters.
But once again, like Mordo in this one actually did remind me of Sinestro and Green Lantern. It's kind of pretty much the exact same thing, even with the.
It's a similar character for sure.
Where at the very end, it's, this guy does that. Mordo at the mid-credit scene goes and kills that guy. Well, not kills him, but takes his power. But then in the other one, it's when the guy takes the ring. It's
Is Green Lantern's ring one of the 6 gemstones?
You found it.
DC would love that.
Finally tied to a good universe.
You're welcome, DC. You're welcome.
I've got a question. Do we think that we've seen the end of the Ancient One?
I don't think so.
Could we see Tilda returning next movie?
Or somebody else.
I'm thinking more spiritual form.
I think she's going to... Exactly. I think she's going to be Obi-Wan Kenobiing it for the next movie or 2.
Well, yeah, absolutely. They introduce other realms and spirits traveling.
Although the astral form is a different thing than, your dead form.
Yeah.
Which is
dead yet.
right. Which is another thing. Did you enjoy that sequence in the hospital when she's performing surgery on him and he's out in his astral form? And that's all taken right from the comic books too.
That was really cool.
His astral form is essential in the comic books. He's using it all the time.
Well, it's one of the biggest cheats in the movie. It's right. His astral form was reading the books.
Absolutely.
He slept so he could learn everything.
It's great, eh?
I become a wizard in 2 weeks.
It was fun. It was a fun little thing.
The wizards, right? That's the right term?
I love that whole sequence. I thought it was great.
Come on. You've said it 10 times so far.
I like my sorcerers supreme.
My biggest problem, continuing in spoiler territory, was of all the cheats in it, the one that bothered me the most was when he was left on Mount Everest and somehow was able to get back. Like, okay, I guess I've talked about this with Megan and my buddy Chris, and the consensus seems to be, well, it was a life and death situation, so that drove him to it, but you don't get any sense of him earning that ability to conjure up the portal and get back.
You would think after 5 minutes his hands would stop working anyway.
Exactly. He's in the worst dire physical straits he's been in his life, except for maybe the car wreck. And well, it's, I gotta get back. So
although, what did you guys think?
Bend time. So.
But I gotta say that sequence in the end when the time is reversing.
I thought that was amazing. Like that actually kind of hurt my brain where things were moving backwards, but they were pushing forwards. I thought that was an amazing and unique sequence.
That's another thing that the movie did great. Is that so many great visual scenes, but they weren't all the same. They had a bunch of clever different ways of manipulating what we see.
But the fact that we've talked about its shortcomings, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd go back and see it, and I'd.
Oh, so would I.
I'm buying the Blu-ray.
Oh yeah,
sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
I bought Ant-Man, and I'm not a fan. So.
But I mean, even in the theater, I would go back and I would seek it out in IMAX, not 3D, but IMAX. I would actually go to the theater to see it again.
I'd be tempted to see it in IMAX 3D.
I'd want to go see it again just because I want to pay attention to different aspects of that.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing this many times.
And I just think that speaks volumes that we can sit here and pick it apart a little bit, but it was good enough that we would all go back to see it.
For sure. You'd like to think with this character and what they've started, though, it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
They've already established the world. They've established the effects. We've got the characters. It's, I think, Doctor Strange 2 and 3. I don't know how they're going to try to top themselves on visuals, but you know that they're going to
have in store for a sequel.
Well, I would say that they'd probably go to explore the other dimensions, and then you can go.
And I hope,
but it still takes imagination behind it to come up with this stuff.
Definitely.
And I just hope that the magic part of it doesn't become formulaic. Because I hope they don't try to do kind of what Fox has done with their X-Men franchise, where the crowd loved the Quicksilver scene, so we need to top that and incorporate that in the sequel somehow and shoehorn that in. I hope they don't get to that point.
I would say it was, if we can digress, that was one of the few bright points in Apocalypse, was the Quicksilver scene. I thought it was fantastic.
Really?
Fantastic.
I had such a problem with that.
That was great.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's so out of place, isn't it?
Run-of-the-mill movie. Man, that was a fantastic.
For me, I agree with you exactly what you said, that people love this scene, so we have to have it.
Typical sequels.
You didn't like it as much as the one from Days of Future Past.
Maybe. I mean, it wasn't as fresh because we'd seen it.
Yeah.
It was more than enough of a different take on it that...
For me, it just seems out of place because the stakes are so different, right?
Yeah.
The stakes in the first one is more kind of, let's get out of here, while this one is, we're saving children from exploding to death. And it seems to be taken in such a lighthearted way.
Where he's busy putting a piece in the dog's mouth.
Exactly, and I'm thinking, what if he's a little slower than he thinks he is and he doesn't save 2 or the 3 kids? Because he didn't save Havoc. You know? We just lost a main character before that sequence starts, and they don't really ever establish that he's died. There's no real sense of mourning for that character afterwards.
That's one of the big
and
of the film.
And that really
so that
pissed
whole
me off
sequence just stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
Yeah, I agree. I've got no problem with them including it if it works, but to me it didn't work, and I almost dreaded that they were going to do it, and then they did it.
I couldn't wait to see what they did with Quicksilver. It could have been anywhere in the movie. The movie was garbage. That scene was, just one of the few bright points in that movie for me.
We're kind of going off on a whole different
way
tangent.
off.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we get too far off topic with another comic book stuff, any more things to say about Doctor Strange? Are we done with the Good Doctor?
Great score. We've talked about,
Michael Giacchino.
The weakness of scores in the Marvel franchise. This is one, maybe the best one, I thought. Very reminiscent of his Star Trek scores, and as close to a great memorable theme as we've heard in a Marvel movie. I haven't bought the CD yet, but I will, and I'm excited to hear it stand alone apart from the film. It's very good. I'm excited. It makes me excited to see what Giacchino's going to do with Rogue One. Does this with a great sci-fi fantasy film, and bring on more Giacchino, one of the best talents working today of his generation.
Let's hope maybe Marvel's taken some of the complaints that they've heard about generic scoring.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, any other final thoughts before we move on to other business?
I think I said everything I need to say.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing it again.
Maybe one of these days we'll do a show where we kind of rank the Marvel movies.
Maybe.
That'd be
something to
Really
think
nice.
about.
This was pretty much exactly the film I thought we were getting. I knew the origin story of Doctor Strange. I knew it was going to have great effects, and it delivered on all accounts. I just felt the second movie is going to be a lot stronger. Okay, we'll wrap it up for Doctor Strange and move on to the Rant and Rave segment. Paul, you want to go first?
Sure. I've got a couple things. I'll lead off with just a quick summary of a movie. My wife and I went to go see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is supplemental to the Harry Potter universe. Not going to give any spoiler reviews or anything, not going to go too in-depth, just kind of a general overview, but we both really liked it, and she's very much more of a Harry Potter fan than I am. Like, I really enjoyed the movies, I really enjoyed the books, but I don't know it detail for detail like I would other subject matters like Star Wars, etc. But both her and other friends of mine that are absolutely Harry Potter mad all really liked it. By no means is it a perfect movie. It falls into a couple kind of obvious movie tropes here and there, but all in all, I really liked the imagination involved in it, the character designs, as far as the costumes, the beast designs. Like, it felt like it really fleshed out that universe a little bit more. It didn't try to ride the coattails of the original series.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Does it feel like a self-contained story?
Absolutely. There's a couple nods to things that you would know if you had seen or read the books. Like, it mentions a couple characters that you may know, or if you're paying attention, there's little visual clues to certain things, but all in all, you don't really have to have any pre-existing Harry Potter knowledge to enjoy this movie. It helps because you have a better understanding of exactly what's going on and who certain people are, but definitely a different take. It's set in the 1920s and set in the United States, so it's completely different than what you know. So you're following a completely different set of characters, and it, like I said, it just felt like it expanded the universe and it complemented it, and I would definitely recommend it. If you enjoy the Harry Potter movies or books, definitely check it out.
That's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them at your local theater.
Yep. I've got another thing. I wasn't sure if we were doing roundtable, but
you go ahead.
My wife and I actually went out to Vancouver over the Remembrance Day long weekend, and Vancouver was having their fan expo that weekend. Surprisingly, and we've been to it before, but surprisingly, it's a smaller scale comic expo than what we have here in Calgary. And I say surprising because there's a lot of movie industry cachet in existence out on the West Coast, so you would just assume...
Yeah, you'd think that.
Yeah, population-wise and just having immediate resources available. It's interesting because it was enjoyable, but certainly as far as expos go, comic book expos, I can go to the Calgary one and spend 4 days there easily, obviously doing various things as far as going to panels and whatnot. The star power there was very much just local, which is good and bad. I mean, it's fine for me because I'm not from there, but when every guest that you have is either living there like a Jewel State or just working there like some of the cast from Arrow and some of these other shows, kind of takes the shine off of it a little bit, I guess. It's the kind of con that you can go there for one day and you're fine. Like, we went there one day and I had friends that were there for all 3 days of it, and even after the first day they were kind of wondering what they were going to do for the following 2 days. So it was really enjoyable and kind of nice to see a different con and how they're set up. But like, just to give you an example of the size comparison, just looking at the panels, so the Q&A sessions, as far as the guests go, you look at the complete list for the entire weekend and it looked like 3/4 of one day for Calgary, which is kind of surprising. They tried a couple neat things like comic book artists that were there. They tried to do a little different spin where they'd have an hour. So instead of a Q&A panel, they'd have two artists kind of almost doing a battle, a drawing battle. So that was kind of a neat kind of spin-off. One really cool moment from the weekend, and this kind of ties into Harry Potter too. Well, it doesn't kind of, it does. Tom Felton was there, who played Draco Malfoy. And he seemed like a cool guy. I didn't get to meet him, but just seeing him interact with fans, he seemed genuine. And then my buddy who was there for the whole weekend on the Sunday, he and his girlfriend dressed up in Harry Potter, the wands and the whole getup. And there was a number of fans that had a photo opportunity near him. He wasn't involved in it, but they just thought, oh, there's 12 of us, let's just have a group photo. He saw this and leapt out of his autograph line and jumped in and had his picture taken with all these people. So I thought that was kind of a cool moment. You don't necessarily see that all the time. And
yeah, it's a nice thing from a celebrity to do something for the fans like that.
Yeah, having fun.
So yeah, all in all, it was an enjoyable one-day event. It was fun. If you're ever on that coast during that time, you can check it out for a day. I will say the one benefit that it has over Calgary is the fact that it's all in one venue. It's all indoors, which benefits cosplayers because they don't ever have to worry about going outside in the rain or the snow. And if you've got makeup, you don't have to worry about that being damaged. And unfortunately, Calgary just doesn't have that infrastructure to be able to handle a comic expo on the scale that we have in one building. Hopefully that changes, but yeah, it was interesting to check out anyways.
All right. Ivan, what do you got for us?
I guess I got a couple of things. I don't know. Have you guys ever watched Black Mirror?
Yeah.
It's on my list to talk about today.
I've been really enjoying
I'm very
that.
upset that seasons 1 and 2 are not on Netflix.
See, well, last time I checked, only season 1 was gone. Season 2's gone now, too?
There's one episode from season 2.
Season 2 is on.
Right, the one with John Hamm. Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing is that it's so self-contained that you can just watch whatever episode whenever, but I want to watch them all.
Yeah, it's an anthology, but from my buddy who's watched everything, he says technologies from earlier episodes are referenced in later ones. So it kind of helps you to see them chronologically.
I need to watch that, but I do want to see it.
It's not essential, but there's...
Yeah, I watched a bunch of episodes and I really enjoyed it. Did you?
It is fantastic.
The one with Dallas Bryce Howard?
Bryce Dallas Howard, right.
Yeah, Meow Meow Beans from Community.
Totally. I was thinking about that throughout the whole thing.
The entire time.
The dark side of Meow Meow Beans come to life. That one is great. She's brilliant in it.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. I really liked it.
Okay, let's just... Where are we in the season for everybody? Right.
And I watched the first episode of season 3 is as far as I got.
That's the Bryce Dallas Howard one.
Yeah, that one and the last episode of season 2, the John Hamm.
Right.
Which is a great... I thought the Bryce Dallas Howard one was okay. I'm comparing it as if guys watched... Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And that one just didn't have the twist ending on that scale. But the John Hamm one, man, did that deliver. What an episode. I can't wait to watch
it's terrific.
The show based on that.
Do you know about the show, Paul?
Oh, yeah, it's been on my list to watch forever.
Have you seen any of the episodes?
I haven't. I knew enough that it was kind of self-contained episodes and an anthology show, but past that, I knew it was kind of the dark side of technology, and that was about it. But no, I haven't watched it, but it's definitely high on my list.
I don't think they all showed the dark side of technology. The one for season 3 that I saw.
Or if you're going to talk about San Junipero, we could do a whole thing on this at another podcast if you like.
True.
And wait for Darren, because this hour of television is one of the best hours of television I've seen all year for sure, and in many years. Absolutely.
Oh, it was amazing.
I don't even know, but my buddy Chris said he showed his younger brother an episode from season 3. And just based on what you guys are saying right now, he said his brother paced around the room and had some alone time after this episode, and just he couldn't believe what he had just seen. And that big of an effect on him.
Yeah, honestly, after watching it, I was kind of like... I don't know what... It had some kind of effect on me. I don't really know.
It's not disturbing. No. As Black Mirror episodes go, it's completely the opposite of most.
It goes happy side almost. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's... Really, I'd like to wait until all of us have seen it, because it is so fucking good. I'm telling you. I've already seen it 3 times, and I can watch it again.
Episode?
Loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I don't want to say anything more. It's that good.
Have you... The actress, Mackenzie Davis, she's also in that *Halt and Catch Fire* show.
Right.
And she's in a movie called... She's a Canadian actress, *Freaks of Nature*. Actually, *Freaks of Nature* is actually pretty fun. It's kind of like horror. It's like vampires, zombies... Alien. It's a pretty fun movie, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. It's a comedy kind of with all that stuff, and I like it. So if you ever get a chance, I don't know.
Well, she's terrific in that show.
Yeah.
Both of them are great.
Yeah,
but, yeah, I would love to just sit down and talk about this.
Just
the show
episode.
itself in general, and that episode in particular. It's mind blowing.
You can just do this entire thing just in that San Junipero.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Kelly watched it and we talked about it all day.
Yeah.
After seeing it,
we might be kind of going overboard for these guys. But
it's not as good as the catering show.
What is?
Yeah.
But no,
you might find it funnier.
I can only recommend it and hope that maybe we've all seen it by the next time we sit down. So,
and
if you can,
and that we're not overhyping it.
If you can watch that one episode without having to have watched any of the others,
for sure, they're all self-contained.
Honestly, that was the first one that I watched.
Wow.
San Junipero. I don't know. I forget how I found out about it, but somewhere I was reading, they mentioned this episode. I was like, okay, because I heard it was an anthology, so you're not missing. I watched it. I'm like, okay, so now I'm watching everything else.
so is that setting yourself up for disappointment for the rest of the episodes if you're going to start with the best one?
You don't know the episode. I think it's the best season of Black Mirror, and I think every episode is good.
Yeah.
Some episodes are great, and San Junipero is amazing
too, right? Like San Junipero, it just goes different from the other ones.
Sure, they're all different.
Yeah,
and all hit the mark to varying degree.
Yeah, I don't know. It was still a really good one.
How many episodes are in a season?
Like
it's only
it's been changed. The first 2 seasons only had 3 episodes each, I think.
That's what I thought.
And then this one has 5.
But still,
5 or 6.
Yeah.
I should look it up.
I bought a DVD box set of the first 2 seasons on Amazon. And I just didn't do my due diligence. When it arrived, it was whatever.
Region 2?
England
shit.
is, so wasted my money. But anyways.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That does suck.
So that's one.
Excellent.
All right, what else you got?
Yeah, I can cross it off my list.
So this
I'm so
is
glad
the
you mentioned
one
that
I'm thinking you guys might have an interesting reaction to. But I just recently saw a pilot for a new show that I'm actually really excited to watch. It's called Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Starring
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Excellent. Is it kind of like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie many years ago where he's playing himself?
This is an action comedy. So basically, he plays himself, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but him being a movie star, going on locations, is his cover for being Johnson as a spy. So it's kind of like an action. So it's very much self-deprecating humor. You know, he does not take himself seriously at all. But it's an action.
God knows we won't.
Honestly, the reviews for this, because I watched it and I looked up the reviews, and like some critics were actually like going like, you have to make this into a series. Like they were like pushing for it to be picked up, because they enjoyed it so much, and people have been saying so many good things like critics for this show.
Are we laughing at him or with him?
Better both, because he's kind of, they take some of the tropes, like how he's played like 2 characters in multiple movies. They bring that in, and it's a joke. They have a discussion of time travel, the time travel logic of Time Cop versus Looper, which I thought was funny as hell. They just kind of make fun of a lot of it, that kind of stuff. And I was reading an interview with the guy that created the show. So he's on set in Bulgaria shooting an action reimagining of a Huckleberry Finn, where he plays Huck Finn, and Bar Pali plays Tom Sawyer. And she's a model actress. You might have seen her in Pain and Gain. So it's like a very 90s Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie reimagining. And what they want to do is every episode they want to shoot a bit more of this. So they can cut it together to be a whole movie in the end, where it's like a 90s action version of Huckleberry Finn with Van Damme. Which, to me, it's like, this is just so awesome.
And where did you find this?
The thing is, I am a Van Damme fan. And the reason I looked it up was because I was curious about the Kickboxer remake, which the original was much better with Van Damme as the...
Kick Puncher.
Was he supposed to be in it?
In the remake? No, he's in the remake. He plays like the master that trains his character from the original, right? It was pretty weak. If you thought the other original Kickboxer had didn't really develop characters much. It was more about action sequences. Then you're going to be like, wow, I couldn't believe that they actually developed characters less.
So it might not hold up to the original Kickboxer?
No.
That's what you're saying.
Saying something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last Jean-Claude Van Damme movie I saw, but I think it's been a while.
I don't think might have been in an episode of Friends was the last time I saw him.
I've actually seen all of them.
Yeah. Is he still working regularly?
Yeah, he's making B movies.
The last thing I saw him in, I think, was a car commercial where he was doing the splits between
on the Volvo,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they kind of make fun of the whole thing. Like, he goes into a restaurant and it's like, oh, are you retired or are you Nicolas Cage retired? Which a lot of people just don't know Nicolas Cage is making a lot of B movies, right? And then the guy goes, oh shit, I thought you were Nicolas Cage. It's that kind of stuff. Like, he goes to this one guy that looks like him, and he's like, oh, who are you? What's going on? He puts the guy's hand on the guy's shoulder. It's like, I'm you from the future. Came back to tell you something terrible is about to happen. The guy goes, the same matter cannot open up, encompass the same space. Time cop. So he replies with, yes, but in Looper, Jean Gordon Joseph Levitt and Bruce Willis, they're time traveling. They touched each other tons of times. And the guy goes, yeah, but if you were me from the future, would you really think Looper's a better movie than Time Cop? And then Van Damme kills him and goes, my friend, you have a really good taste in movies. And just crap like that. It's better when you actually see it in context, but...
with alcohol.
It's actually quite entertaining.
It sounds like it's right up your alley, Ivan, knowing what a fan you are of 80s action films.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those, you might just enjoy the in-jokes, and because he's just making fun of himself.
And this is a pilot, you said, a half an hour show?
But he got picked up on Amazon. And, he does the little training montage, because he's a movie star trying to get back into shape. He uses a Segway with one of those claw things to pick up his newspapers, because he, can't bend down to do it. Then he's trying to do his little, famous splits, fails and gets just whaled in the face. He tries to do a little training montage and just shit like that. And I don't know, to me just looked like a lot of fun. And then you got the action aspect where he's just kicking the shit out of people too, right?
Sounds like a mixed bunch, but
I watch the pilot and see what you think. Like I said, this has been getting great reviews across the board, and even some critics have actually been campaigning for this to be picked up before it was officially picked up.
Critics or fans?
No, fans. Oh, no, actual critics. Some of them were actually campaigning to have this picked up because they enjoyed it so much.
Because they were actually live in a world where Jean-Claude Van Damme takes himself too seriously.
Right.
So
I'll give anything a shot, Ivan. But that one's even sounding
tenuous.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd get through more than a few minutes, but
I don't know.
We'll see.
You might.
And how long's an episode? Pretty much 20 minutes.
Yeah, without commercials, right?
What's it called again? Jean-Claude Van
Johnson.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Dexter, what do you got for us?
A couple things. Also, quickly throw out a movie that I want to give some props to. It's called Uncle John, not the sequel to Uncle Buck. It's a low-budget, independent thriller, a very non-Hollywood thriller, just not formulaic at all. Not Judge Reinhold, but the other cop from Beverly Hills Cop. He's Uncle John.
The old guy.
The bald guy with the mustache. He's 70 now.
I think this might be on Netflix because I kept seeing it. Yeah,
it is on Netflix.
Something
I saw
that I've been kind of wondering
a couple years ago. I think it's IMDb gives its release date as 2015. Just the trailer really intrigued me, and when I saw it on Netflix, man, you have to watch this movie. The movie opening scene, so it's not ruining anything, with you see Uncle John killing someone, finishing someone off. And then from there, it's really just a character piece. Kind of goes back and forth between Uncle John on the farm and his nephew in Chicago, who was raised by John. They're kind of living their lives, and you get a feeling of John in the small town and why he did what he did. And then it just builds to very good, suspenseful, thrilling climax. One that gives you the sense that it could happen in the real world, not in Hollywood. And fantastic cast. Everyone was really good. For a movie that's not trying to deliver climax and suspense and cliffhanger after cliffhanger, man, for 2 hours long, I was never bored. The character stuff is great. I think if anyone likes independent films and wants a different sort of thriller, check out Uncle John. Highly recommend it. My other thing would be, as you guys all know, I'm a big Twin Peaks worshiper. So I'm almost done a book called The Secret History of Twin Peaks written by Mark Frost, one of the co-creators of Twin Peaks. Initially marketed to fill the gap between season 2 from 1991 and now, it really isn't. It's kind of more of partial recap of the original series, but also filling in the blanks. And it does a great job of kind of relating a bunch of real-world paranormal phenomenon and real-world people like Richard Nixon and so on in incidences that are out there that, whether they're real or not, they were reported, with the characters in Twin Peaks and the paranormal goings-ons in and around Twin Peaks. The book itself will probably, like The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer from the original series, will become a plot point in the new series, I will guess. Probably for diehard fans only. I don't think the average viewer is going to need it to...
Does it take on the point of view of a character, or is it more like a textbook?
It's kind of like a textbook. Specifically what it is, I'll try and do it as fast as I can. It's a dossier that was found at a crime scene. Gordon Cole, who's David Lynch's character in the original series, he's now deputy director of the FBI. He gives the dossier to Agent TP, full name not given, just initials TP. Disseminate this dossier, TP, and try and discover who authored it. And so you're reading the dossier with Agent TP's notes here and there throughout it. So it's newspaper clippings, it's transcripts of military interviews. It even goes back into 1800s history when Lewis and Clark were exploring the Northwest. And so there's pages from, in quotation marks, from Lewis and Clark's journals and letters to then President of the United States,
Thomas Jefferson,
talking about what they've uncovered in and around Twin Peaks, and it introduces a prop from the movie Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. So it's a lot of nice Easter eggs for Twin Peaks fans. Like I say, you can...
And it sounds like just a great book for conspiracy nuts in general.
Oh, yeah, conspiracy nuts.
Right.
Go to town. Project Blue Book figures highly in this book. It's going to... Like I said, you don't need it to enjoy Season 3, I'm sure. You're already a Twin Peaks fan and seen Season 1 and 2, but it really helps fill the gap, not story-wise, but for your own mental sanity, being able to wait for the new season of Twin Peaks.
And when is Season 3 out?
I think they're saying
2017,
April.
in the spring, I think. The first little teaser trailers have come out. Have you seen them?
I've only seen...
The actors kind of talking about the
those
world
ones.
there.
No actual footage from
exactly,
the series.
right.
Yeah, just teasers.
Just enough, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I was a big Twin Peaks fan.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that series, hopefully.
You know, I've been recommending it to you for years. So.
You have, and one of these days I may have time enough to watch it.
See, the thing is, I used to watch when I was younger because my parents were really into it. But I mean, I think I was way too young to really understand what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I was like 15 in junior high, so you're what, 6 years younger than me?
Yeah.
Not a show for 9-year-olds.
No.
It might be my favorite show of all time, so I recommend it.
Like I said, I remember watching it as a kid, but I just could not understand what was happening. Could have also been, language barrier as well, because I'm pretty sure it was when I was back in Europe, too.
True, but the people who watched it didn't understand what was happening. So.
Absolutely. It confused most of North America, so I can't wait for that.
Yeah, so that's what I got.
They're doing what, 10?
It's 18 episodes.
18 episodes complete.
And how many episodes were in the first 2 seasons?
Combined, 29.
It's not too bad of a commitment, really.
No, it's not.
And the movie.
Yeah, and the movie, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Fire Walk With Me?
Fire Walk With Me.
They only had the one movie? That was it?
Yeah.
That was it. Which is kind of a prequel.
Kind of a
to the
prequel.
series.
Kind of other stuff.
Yeah.
But not...
Didn't explain anything.
Didn't explain anything.
Lots of craziness.
Didn't wrap up the series like many fans,
but
I'm sure, were hoping.
It doesn't sound like Twin Peaks is really the kind of show you watch to get answers.
No, you want certain things answered, and ultimately it answered certain things, but anyone who wants an easy, wrapped up, nice little package from Twin Peaks isn't going to get it.
Yeah, but that's like Penny Dreadful. Like, when that thing ended, there was so many things.
Or I was even thinking Lost, where it introduces so many questions that ultimately go unanswered, which personally I don't have a problem with. So it sounds like the kind of show that would be really up my alley.
It doesn't leave things unanswered out of laziness or poor writing. If it's unanswered, it's intentional.
It does meander a bit in the second season.
There's a 4-episode stretch in the second season that I think is fairly weak. And then for like the final 6 or 7 episodes of the series after that, it's just fantastic.
Yeah. Still, in all the years since it's been on, there's really been nothing like it.
You mentioned Lost. Lost is one of the series that definitely owes a big debt to Twin Peaks.
But never a show that had that peculiar sense of oddity.
Not to that extent.
Yeah.
No.
It's great. What's the name of the book?
The Secret History of Twin Peaks.
By Mark Frost.
Author.
Excellent. All right. What do I got? Enjoying HBO lately, besides Westworld. which is my favorite show going on this year. Is anybody else watching that?
Not yet.
I haven't, but yeah,
I would love to do a full chat with you guys about that show because I think it's amazing.
I heard good things, but I heard that you also might have to wait 2 years for the next season.
Let's not talk about that.
Don't crush Ron's dreams
No,
just yet.
I'm enjoying it too much as it is to think about that. Another show is called High Maintenance on HBO. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
I don't think I've heard of it.
It's just a 6-episode show, at half-an-hour segments, and basically it's about a New York City pot dealer who's rides his bike all around through Manhattan, the Bronx, and whatever. Except he's a peripheral character in his own show. It's really unique. We start off every episode with a couple that we've never seen before. We meet them, knock on the door, and he'll come into the scene for a couple of minutes, deliver what he has to do, go out, and then we stay with these characters. And each episode is kind of a little different look at New York. Totally different characters in every episode. Some are funny, some are sad. One takes the perspective of a dog, which is maybe my favorite episode.
That sounds, yeah.
It's very adult. I haven't really seen a show like this before. I love the idea of the central character being kind of, not really the star of his own show. I think that's kind of interesting.
The concept reminds me of the movie that I'm going to butcher the year, but sounds like the movie $20 that came out in, I think it was
The Floating Dollar Bill.
Yeah,
Right.
which was kind of an interesting way to move you from story to story.
Right. Yeah, you could say it's a little bit like that. Of course, there's moments where the character takes center stage and everything, right?
Yeah.
He's not just floating around, but it's just on an observational quality. The writing is so sharp, and you're just seeing characters who you've never really seen before that you're absolutely positive exist. And, you're just like
you're a fly on the wall.
Absolutely. This guy's, he obviously lives in the city and has seen many, many different types of people. And his writing is just so good. It's a really neat show just to check it out.
And it's one writer for every single episode?
Yeah, it's one creator anyways.
Oh, wow.
So that's a 6-episode, not a lot of commitment. Like I said, 3 hours for the whole show.
Yeah, sounds good.
I recommend that. There's also a new documentary directed by Noah Baumbach and Jake Kasdan on Brian De Palma. The great director Brian De Palma. I loved it. It goes through, do we know who Brian De Palma is, guys?
Yeah.
Do you guys know some of his films?
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with his work.
He's all over the place when it comes to films, from The Untouchables to Scarface to the horror genre, which he's most famous for, Dress to Kill, and body double movies like that. If you're unfamiliar with his work, I think you'd like it. If you're familiar with his work, I think you'd love it. It's really interesting, and I recommend it. That's De Palma.
He's got some of my favorite movies of all time, The Untouchables.
Yeah.
I spent my entire, probably junior high and high school, telling people The Untouchables was my favorite movie. So, Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
He is such just a specific director, his sense of style and stuff. You watch a De Palma movie, and you're not going to get confused about who else you're watching.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm very interested in this.
And I, like you, Darren, I absolutely love The Untouchables.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, but absolutely so many iconic moments in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the classic sequence, the Odessa step sequence at the end with the baby carriage going down the steps, which he took from an old Russian silent film.
Yeah. He knows just where to borrow from.
Right. There's that segment. There's the Mission Impossible segment when Tom Cruise is hanging on the wires in the room. He's a master of doing these great set pieces, and nobody really does it like him. With Carrie, do you remember with Carrie winning the prom and that great tracking shot that goes all the way through the school up around the bucket of blood before they're going to dunk it on her? Yeah, he's just fantastic, and it was nice to be refreshed with all of his movies. And as soon as I finished it, I felt like watching De Palma all week.
Yeah, he would do what every Hitchcock movie had, that a signature visual element. That I think that's what a big inspiration for De Palma is. That every film he took it to a certain extent further than Hitchcock, like that incredibly long tracking shot in Carrie, or Carlito's Way has another incredibly long shot where there's no edit and just goes all over Grand Central Station. Yeah,
the term Hitchcockian gets thrown around a lot by people, but I really think he is the only kind of true, real disciple of Hitchcock who's...
which is not to say he's
that he
isn't his own director.
Absolutely not, right.
Easily, but he took that Hitchcockian influence and made it his own, and became a class actor. In doing so. He's
only done maybe 3 movies this century. He's kind of cooled down a bit in his later years, but discovering his older work, it's still great, and it really holds up. Absolutely.
Century.
Yeah. Okay. Should we wrap it up, guys?
I believe we should.
Yeah. It's
all right.
We'll be back with something.
We'll be back with something. Okay. Take care.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.